Hey guys, welcome back to Tech Talk Tuesdays. We want to finish up our series on access control and all things access control. So today we're going to be talking about lockdown.
Yeah.
Austin, tell us what lockdown is.
So the actual definition of lockdown is a state of isolation or restricted access instituted as a security measure. Now, if we kind of just say that in simpler terms, lockdown meaning that you can press a button or you can lock the door in your facility or institution, that would be a lockdown.
Well, and for some of you, for informational purposes, lockdown can be used anywhere at universities, schools, corporate businesses, or even just in your small to medium-sized business. Anywhere that there might be a door that's on an unlocked schedule using an access control system could benefit from lockdown features, as well as individual classrooms. So we're going to talk about a couple different varieties of lockdown and why lockdown is important, and you make sure that whatever access control platform that you use has lockdown capabilities that are instantaneous, because the worst thing in the world that I could imagine is have an active shooter situation or something that requires lockdown and not be able to instantaneously lock down your school and or facility.
Well, you know, the biggest thing we hear from customers is saying, well, I just want access control in the exterior of my building. And that's what we'll have, because otherwise I can just put a lock on the door and they can just lock it if something happens. And that's true, you can, but the reaction time between you and all your employees getting that message to go up and lock their door in time could potentially be somebody's life at stake, when otherwise you could just be able to hit a button and every door locked down at that time.
Yeah, because let's face it, I mean, we all normally have our cell phones and or communication devices handy, but the one time that we don't need it is usually the time that we miss an important text message or phone call. So even in a perfect scenario where everybody has their phone and the text message goes out in a mass text and to all the teachers and to all the employees to lock down, somebody is inevitably going to miss it. So it makes sense that to have the upper level management, principals, vice principals, deans, whatever the case might be, have them with the ability to lock down the school, lock down the business instantaneously.
And you know, people tell us all the time, they say, well, that's really expensive. And the case is, there's so many different ways that you could do a lockdown. Not every door has to have a card reader or something on it. I mean, you can still have a lockdown and just have the electrified hardware on the door and still lock down the door. So there's multiple different ways you can look at it.
Yeah, and the important thing to remember about lockdown is if you're locking down only your exterior doors, you might only have one or two entrances into your building that has a card reader on the outside, and that's okay. But like Austin said, if you have electrified hardware, and you can accomplish this with electrified hardware that's panic bars, that's cylindrical locks, mortise locks, or in the case of lockdown purposes, that might be a special scenario that you decide to use a maglock, because a maglock is pretty inexpensive, and if you're using it for lockdown, if it's tied in correctly to meet the ADA regulations and life safety code and your local fire department jurisdiction when it comes to fire code, as long as it meets those things, a maglock might be an inexpensive way to achieve lockdown.
And one scenario I can think of that I've seen done before is, I think it was a daycare that has their outside facility, like you had said, has card readers, but all the interior daycare, the classrooms and stuff like that are all just on electric strikes, and so they're on you have them unlocked.
And those electric strikes, indoor maglocks, whatever hardware you choose could be utilized to be triggered in the case of a lockdown scenario. And if it's a corporate access control system, an S2, a Linnell, a bigger company like that, or even when you talk military and you go to Identiv and Hirsch Velocity and those systems, they can do an instantaneous lockdown, and the system-wide lockdown capabilities can be used to trigger and do all kind of things. I know that we've had a couple customers that have utilized not only relays and output relays to lock down doors and send alarms and messages, but they also have the ability to a lot of times send text messages out to a corporate high-level management type scenario, that if say a daycare facility or a portion of a school has to hit the lockdown button, that the other schools and the area are notified, and the district officials might be notified via text message that, hey, this school is on lockdown. And it happens virtually real time, as long as everything's configured correctly.
And if you're watching this and you're part of a school board or a school district, a good thing to think about is if you're able to get all your schools in your district on an access control type system that can do that lockdown feature. If you have something in your county happens to where you need to just lock down all your schools at one time, this gives you the ability to be able to do that. And most of your systems, like Matt said, can actually notify those people in those buildings through a text message or an email or some way of doing that, some fashion.
Well, and we also have the ability to do instantaneous lockdown. Individual lockdown. It also be instantaneous. There's a number of different manufacturers out there that have remotes that the teacher can have individually for classrooms. So if you're a smaller school and a smaller facility, don't worry. We can still accomplish a goal, but we just have to, you have to consult with an access control provider, a doors frames provider, somebody that can give you that information, that knowledge that you need to make sure your lockdown is safe. Because what you don't want is you don't want to be fighting with mechanical hardware, trying to find a key on a key ring that's got 20 keys on it to try to lock a classroom door. You just don't want to try to do that.
And if you think that there's, that you have a possibility of, well, if I have to do this, I'm going to have to replace some doors because the electrified hardware is just not going to fit. There's so many different options out there right now, even wireless options that are great that can retrofit your existing hardware you have, whether it be a mortise lock or even a cylindrical lock. And so that limits the amount of wires you have to run and also makes your schools a safer place.
Well, and refer to some of these manufacturers, and you can find them on our website at Door Talk. We'll put more information paired up with this video about lockdown. But the most important thing, if you're a business owner, if you're a principal, you got employees and you have children to take care of, and you need to make sure that your lockdown and your procedures, sometimes that people forget about the procedures, are just as important. What is your lockdown policy? Do a monthly drill. I know that when we were in school, we used to have tornado drills and fire drills and that kind of thing. Do a monthly drill on lockdown and what your policies and procedures are. Make sure that everybody is well trained and well versed exactly what to do. And that way, in the event of an emergency, not only where you have instantaneous lockdown with your access control system, but your people will understand and know what's going on and know what's expected.
Well, and we always think it could never happen to us until it does.
That's true. And
we always want to we want people to be ahead of that curve so that you don't have to sit back and think, well, what if I would have done this? So, we at Warren Doors and for Door Talk, this is what we try and convey to people is, hey, we want to be able to make sure that your building's secure and safe.
That's it. Well, listen, that's all we got for today, so we'll see you next time. Thank you very much.